Alright, what's up guys? Welcome to another live session. Today is September 1st, 2020. First of the month. Very crazy. So today we're going to be talking about the dollar, and you can see right in front of me the headline, US dollar claws back losses on solid manufacturing PMI data. So if you look at the numbers today, 56. That is pretty dang good in comparison to the forecast. 54.6. Above 50 usually indicates industry expansion. Having this considerably above 54.6 is also pretty good for the dollar. So when we look at the dollar index, you'll see that it's actually pulled back. It's jumped up. I wouldn't say pulled back, but it's jumped up this morning. And a lot of the potential trade ideas we talked about yesterday are still remaining in the potential area. They're still pending, and we'll talk about that as well. So the rest of the day, some immediate impact. The only thing important left is the Aussie GDP. If you look at the forecast, -6%, that's pretty bad actually. So we may have Aussie dollar shorts, and we'll discuss that as well. So going to the charts, you'll see what we discussed yesterday. So this was yesterday's session where we talked about this down move, right? And I said, after this down move, most likely than not, we're going to come back and retrace and retest this 92.12, 92.13, 92.10 level, right? And so we did that, and then we got a nice rejection, and that was right before Aussie yesterday, okay, during Japan. And then we had some consolidation, right? No candle really did anything. This just stayed where it was. Then this morning we had that push up because of the beneficial manufacturing data. Since then, it's kind of fizzled out. So I honestly think, that's the most we're gonna get. That's the most we're probably gonna get from that news event, and then we're gonna continue down lower. Okay. So we may pull back once more to 92.12, and then just completely sell off again. Again, we're still making those, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. This is a lower high because it hasn't cleared the previous high, so it's still within the price action of a downtrend. It's just today's manufacturing data gave it a little boost. That's about it. I think it's just a boost. It's not going to be a reversal. Mind you, tomorrow we have the ADP, so the news could really factor into the trades. So maybe we'll look to get into the miners instead, but tomorrow is the ADP, and you can see 1.25 million jobs will be added versus to last month, which only 160K. So that's a big jump, right? And if this holds true, then we could maybe see a reversal on the dollar, especially if NFP Friday comes out better than expected or on par. They're expected to see unemployment drop below 10%, and also adding 1.38 million jobs. So could be a reversal point fundamentally, but I think from today going into tomorrow, the most dollar index should go to is 92.10 area, and then maybe reject from there. So let's try not to trade tomorrow's news. So we'll look at the majors in case there's an entry, or just kind of go over what happened. But then we'll focus on the miners to really see if there's any good trade idea, right? So yesterday I had an appointment, so I was pretty much off the charts. Had a headache since I came back. I thought I had COVID for a second because, that's one of the symptoms is we have a headache, chills, but I think that's gone. So, so let's take a look at Euro. So a few of the alerts went off. One was Euro, and here is the idea we talked about. And you can see, none of these 4-hour candles warrant an entry, and therefore, that trade's not going to be entered. But nonetheless, you can see price has consolidated, right? So similar to dollar index, we had an initial move, then price consolidated, and then price reacted to the PMI data, right? So if I pull up another chart, give me a second. So there you go. So if I pull this up, right, the dollar index, this is the 4-hour. Okay, so if you look at the dollar index, we have this move, which corresponds with this move. Then we have these two belts consolidation, which corresponds to this move. And then now we have this current candle trying to go up, which should correspond to this down move right here, where, as you see, price trying to move lower. So it all connects together. So that's why I think the dollar index will tell us beforehand what's going to happen. And in general sense, it still looks like a downtrend. So after some consolidation, I do think we will eventually go long for euro. And this was our key level, remind you, right? This was our key level, 1.19700 to go long. Now you can see yesterday when we made, these attempts to go higher, we created a new high right above here. We created that high at 1.20100, right? So that's where I want price to break on the 1-hour time frame. Okay, it doesn't have to be the 4-hour, just the 1-hour is fine because we'll have momentum. But on the 1-hour time frame, we need to break and close above 120-100, which is that new high we made earlier today. Okay, because the issue is, if we enter long now, what price can do on a smaller time frame is come up here and then use this as resistance. Make a little double top and then sell off. And so to make sure we don't fall into that, we're going to wait for price to close above today's high, and that's above 1.20100. So this will be the first idea I'm going to send in. I was hesitant about yesterday's ideas just because it was Monday, and I didn't want any forced entry, so I did not send any chart work in. I think I'll make it a habit of sending chart work in on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, because that way traders get into the habit of not trading Fridays or forcing things on Monday. But this is what we don't want, right? So what we're going to wait for is price to close above on the 1-hour time frame, and then we should have a nice momentum swing to the upside. So that is the new adjusted idea for euro dollar. If you rushed entry yesterday, you would have got nothing but maybe some more drawdown. So no point in rushing things that aren't there. For example, if you entered here, let's say you entered after this candle, you would have went, as far as 50 pips in drawdown, right? And there's a reason why we look at certain candles when we enter long. This is not a bullish hammer or a bullish candle with no wick to the top and bottom. Here you have a bullish candle with a long wick to the top, which is not the candle we enter long on. If you're new to the Forex trading room and you need to know the two candles we enter long on and two candles we enter short on, let me know and I'll send in the infographic. It's like a picture of all the candles from most bullish to least bearish. Bullish from most bearish to least bearish. And just save that so you have that as reference point. But a candle like this would have been ideal. Nice hammer, a candle like this would have been great as well. But obviously, when you don't have those closures, that tells you on a smaller time frame that something's awry, something's amiss, and you can see right here, indecision right now. So we're gonna wait for price to get up there, and I'll stay on the 1-hour time frame so it doesn't get fused. But this is what we need. So I'll put in a new alert. 1.20, is nice. Let's see if we can get that today before tomorrow's ADP. So that's euro. I want to see pound as well. So pound, very similar story. Actually, no, not a similar story. I was going to say Aussie has a very similar story. Pound, on the other hand, so this is a long idea that was given on Friday, and during yesterday's session, we were already up here, and I said it's kind of late to go longs because price has already moved up quite a bit. But GU is volatile, so when GU moves, it really does move, and the momentum does carry it forward. Our long-term target is 1.35,000. We went as high as 1.34800, so 20 pips off. But this is a trade that became active on Friday, started playing out on Sunday, and coming into Monday, it was just too late to enter. I think by the end of Monday's session, price was already up here, and it would have made sense in terms of our to enter. But it's nice to see that we had the correct bias the entire time. Again, if it was any other day, we probably would have got an entry, but Fridays we have to make sure we're very disciplined. And so that's one thing we're going to watch out for is see what pound does once it gets to 1.35 thousand. Because at that level, if we get a rejection, we can probably sell, and that'll coincide with good job data for the dollar. If we break above, we can go even higher. There's a huge long-term target at 1.40. If we look at the monthly time frame, you see we have ways to go, right? We have all this price action we can capture, and that's at 1.4400. So the momentum we've built off this support is crazy, right? We had this long wick during the peak of phase one, and then price pulled back, used as support, its previous support, and then just rallied very, very hard. So that's the next TP, 1.35 thousand, because that's the high we made in November 2019. And so we need to clear it, and if we do clear it, we can even go higher to 1.4400. My goodness, that volatility is that's special. That is special. All right. And then we talked about silver and then gold, and then I'll go over any pair recommendations and some of the miners we discussed. So gold, use another example of waiting for closures, right? But gold, yesterday I said that gold is volatile enough that you can enter on any candle closure. Doesn't really matter as long as it's bullish. So this is a okay candle to enter on. And you got a decent move, and then price pulled back. But again, this is why it's very important. So you got around a 63 pip move after that just volatile push. Gold likes to go with momentum, and so after this candle, there's a possibility to make up to 60 pips. I'm pretty sure traders that entered probably focused on getting at 25 pips and then getting out. Since then, price has pulled back. Again, that's just the sheer nature of gold. That's why it's very important to just get what you can from the markets and then just look for re-entry. But this is just it's not a reversal. I don't think gold is going to sell off. This is just a retracement before push up. Again, this is a bearish hammer. Bearish hammers are very known for being part of retraces. For example, here you have one right here before price did its next leg up. Here's another bearish hammer before price did its next leg up. So it's very common on par. Obviously, this is a news-related candle, so you have that very, very long wick. But gold should head to the upside. I'm just not into trading gold right now until maybe we get to 2015, this level up here. But again, this is a very simple idea. Just enter off any closure above 1977, right? And you got around 60 pips of leeway room. But this is not a trade I'll be using the pip count. It's just a trade that I just gave. I try to make sure that the trades that are given are high probability, and there's a reason why I didn't send any chart work yesterday, just because I knew that it wasn't going to be ideal, especially with the PMI this morning. There was no point of actually holding or forcing a trade this early. So the PMI was pretty surprising to me. I didn't know it was going to be that well, but it's another good thing of not trading too early in the week. So gold, just going to let it do whatever it needs to do, see how the day ends. If there's an idea, we'll discuss it tomorrow. Silver, very similar as well. So silver, we wanted a nice 4-hour bullish closure, and if you look at the candles that appeared, right, just moving that across, you can see we had one, right? So we had this initial push, we had one here. So this warrants entry. We had a pullback, and I think this is ready to launch up as well. So if you entered silver long from yesterday's analysis, you are in maybe, let's see, how many pips of drawdown? You're in 30 pips of drawdown, so nothing too major. The R2R for this trade is 2.5. But after this retracement, which I think it is just a retracement, you have a nice bearish hammer. You can have a next leg up. So if I was in this trade, I'd probably add another position, just a really small one, because this is a pretty good sign that the next leg up is due. Because you had to push a retracement, a nice bearish hammer off some nice key level right here, and I do think it's time to drive up higher. So For those that entered the silver trade, not to worry at all. This looks pretty good and it is on par with normal price action for silver. So that's fine as well. This looks a lot better than gold, to be honest. Gold was a bit looks a bit rocky, but it's also fixing up as we speak. Silver looks pretty good. You know, you can see that wick is just getting squeezed up. It's getting squeezed up, so that's really good. And shoot, I might even enter this. I might call a signal for this actually, since the stop loss. Let's see how big the stop loss is from where we are right now. The stop loss is 65 pips. That's not bad considering the R2R is 2.5. So I'll see how this 4-hour candle closes. If it's nice and bullish, we can enter long. I'll call a signal. Okay. So this looks pretty good. And then that was pretty much it. And then if you look at the alerts, you know, we're still waiting for a pound NZD, for example, for that mega short idea. Here's a trade I usually just talked about. Gold, we just talked about. NZD, we're still waiting. So if you look at NZD longs, right, here's our alert up here. 0.67900, still waiting. But I'm ready to call that signal once price gets there. I just think dollar index needs a small retrace. I think this might be it, and then price will just completely drop. And so that's what we have to do. Usually when we have news during the New York session, most of the day, so from most of the New York session to the 5 p.m. closure is pretty consolidated, right? Usually this time of the day it's very consolidated. Things don't pick up until Japan session, right? So if you notice during the day, most of the time in the Eastern time zone, like from 9 p.m. to 5, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., it's just quiet in the markets unless there's news, right? If there's news, it starts moving around, but after 1 p.m., 2 p.m., when all these Wall Street guys want to lunch, it just completely becomes mute. So I think that's what's going to happen today, where for the next 8 or so hours, the markets will be asleep, and then finally Japan comes around, and then things will really start moving. So one of the setups you have to look out for is NZD. One of the reasons why is because today we have Aussie GDP, which will definitely affect the NZD. So if you're going to be trading, or you should be watching this trade with us, take note of this 9:30 p.m. time slot, because that's when that fundamental news will be released. And currently we have a bearish forecast. So instead of a longs against the dollar, we may have shorts. So just be careful of that. But for now, we're looking bullish, right? We have nice hammers kicking in, and we're just waiting for a 4-hour closure above 0.67900 to take this trade, and I will call it once that alert becomes active. Yeah, that's what we discussed yesterday. Well, a lot of pairs. Aussie dollar. So here's Aussie dollar. You can see, yesterday's alert was kicked in, but that closure was just not what we wanted. So if I remove this, right, here's the candles we've had above this line. None of them are bullish, right? We want a bullish hammer or bullish candle with no wicks. So we're still waiting, but the bias still resumes. It's still the same, in my opinion. The daily does look a bit suspect at this point because of the long wicks. So we're gonna need at least, and I'll be sure to call the signal. So don't worry about getting the entry, especially for these pairs. But I'm just gonna be personally looking for this daily candle to fill up. That's what I need to happen. So I just said the next 8 or so hours will be pretty quiet, but we need it to not be quiet, and this daily candle to fill up, right? We need this to kind of fill back up to give us the entry long, right? Because if we spend today bearish and tomorrow bearish, that's not a good sign, especially with positive USD data on the way. So you need to watch out for that. So we have a few hours for this thing to close. Hopefully it closes bullish and you can take that long. Obviously that's the main trend we're in, so that's the main idea we're looking for. But it is looking pretty dicey, right? It's not looking as bullish as it was yesterday, for example. So Aussie, the daily has the 4 hour is still hanging on to that uptrend, but these 2 wicks up here we made, it's not really sitting well with me. So I'm gonna move this for a sec, just to show you these 2 wicks up here. We had multiple instances to go up, to really push up, but we just didn't. So that's a bit worrisome. We'll see what happens. Again, there's GDP later today, so maybe it's waiting for that data. And I think as traders, we might have to wait for that data because that GDP forecast is bearish. It's very bearish. That's last month was 0.3%. This month is a negative 6% contraction. That is a lot for an economy that's dealing with the pandemic. So we could have a sell-off down to here. That is on the table. So I don't see any point of entering now. So we'll wait for the end of the day and that GDP release, and then we'll know if this will end up going higher or lower. And then that way you can save money and not really get stuck into a trade. So this is kind of what we're dealing with right now for Aussie, and similar to NZD since they're correlated. But for now, the uptrend is clinging on. But once we start clearing this low right here, which is the low we made just yesterday. Once we clear yesterday's low, then the shorts are more likely, right? So we may drop all the way down to 0.72900. So just be on the lookout for that. I'll be looking out for maybe a short if that happens, and completely disregard the longs. CHF yen, NZD yen. So CHF yen. So I believe I gave a long. So this is a long I gave last time. Came pretty close to our target. I think whoever asked for CHF yen, I don't usually trade this, but came pretty close to our target. We're kind of waiting for a rejection off this resistance to go short. I think that was a long-term play that I identified. Let's see. Yeah, it's a long-term play that I identified. It looks good, right? So the short-term long looked well, and now the long-term short looks pretty good as well. So if you took that short-term long, congrats. But here's the long-term play, which I'm interested in, is the short. So if you look at the weekly time frame, the resistance dating back to 2017, 2018, 2018, and then now 2020. So that's obviously a major resistance at 118.100. And so you can look at the past 2 weekly candles, very long wick to the top, which is a sign of sellers pouring in. But I would love for price to actually give an honest attempt at this level. It hasn't touched this level just yet. I want to give an honest attempt and then take that down, right? So that's what I see for CHF yen. Just a simple weekly resistance to weekly support is what we're looking at, and we have yet to really test the resistance. We have pushed up close enough, but I would really like if price makes an honest attempt to go higher, and then we get that rejection and the sell-off. So still waiting on it, but that's the long-term play. I think that's what you need to wait for. And so if you're PZ late, just draw these two lines, 118.100 and then 108.300, and just wait for a daily or a weekly rejection off this 1.18100, and then take the short. And the R2R is just out of this world, right? It's like video game numbers. This is 5.5. You can't beat that. That's a nice swing trade. So so I'll see. I'll probably leave an alert right at that horizontal line for when we do touch it, and then if there's a signal, I'll let you guys know. So mine's at the horizontal line, and I'll see if we do get that, and if we do, that's a nice swing trade to take. Next we have NZD yen. So here's that long. Oh my god, wow. here's that long idea we discussed, and look at this thing. Look, it's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. So here, oh wow, that's perfect. So NZD yen, we discussed a long idea last Thursday, I believe. But here you have it. So this was the initial push up, right? Obviously, it's not a bullish candle. Price pulled back, and then you have the bullish candle we enter long on, a nice bullish hammer, and then the rest is history, right? A nice clean move. If you look at the weekly, you'll see what we can target next. We can target these highs next for the uptrend. So wow, that is a really good move for NZD. But this is the next TP, right? So when you trade a trend line break, you usually target the highs of the trend line. So this is our first target, right? Our first high, a nice wick point. Then our next target will be these highs up here, and we can definitely do that. If you look at this week's weekly candle, looks pretty decent. It could close into a bullish hammer if the top can push up a bit. But this is pretty solid. So if the daily isn't too shabby, right? Today's daily isn't too shabby. I will call the long. That swing long. So something like this. Right, 3.0 R2R. So I will call this trade if the daily is fine. So look around 6 p.m. after the spreads come down. If the closure is good enough, we'll enter this long, and I think we'll get something out of this trade at the very minimum. I'm not sure if we'll get the full move to the top, but at the very minimum, we'll get around 40, 50, 60, 70 pips, depending on if the dollar is strong. If the dollar is weak tomorrow, we know NZD dollar will go up higher, and then conversely NZD yen. So it all relies on that, but we'll definitely get something as the momentum is real here. It's very strong. So that's a nice trade. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. And then I'll put an alert just at 71,800, crossing up 71,800 to kind of let me know that, hey, price is moving again. Okay, so that is actually very awesome. Glad to see that long-term approach we're taking is playing out. We just need to get those entries. CAD CHF. So very this is where price action is stuck in, right? That's kind of the daily range that it's having. Whenever it does break up, it tends to have rallies in certain directions, like here, or it breaks below, it has a rally down, a mini rally down. CAD CHF, I can't, even the weekly is a bit blank. I would love to give a setup, but I don't really see one here. And you can maybe wait for a break of 0.69400, 0.69850 to go long, and have a target of this high. So go from here to here. But even then, that's a bit of a riskier trade, because in the past we've had various wicks to the top side, and so in my opinion, with the amount of great setups that are out there, I would personally not give a trade idea for this, because there's nothing that's high probable. So I'm sorry, there's nothing there in my opinion until we really clear this high or clear these lows. There's nothing that's concisive here to really take. Aussie yen. So very similar to NZD yen. Aussie yen is on similar ground. So you can see we discussed at some point a swing long for Aussie yen, and I believe it's also on the 27th. Price has jumped up. Because of the swing trade, we were waiting for a daily bullish closure, and so this jumped up, and this is the candle you probably would enter on. Since then, price has jumped up, but you can see it's very, there's a lot of indecisiveness on the daily time frame. Actually, I'm gonna go back to show you. You can see these candles have these long wicks to the top, The reason why is because currently the dollar is kind of fighting its demons, right? The dollar is the dollar is just pushing down, pulling back up. It's just it's kind of consolidating on the higher time frames. It's not really trending like it was last week where we had this major sell-off. So right now, a lot of the majors, such as Aussie dollar, are kind of stuck. They don't know if they're going to go higher or lower, and therefore, the miners, Aussie yens, will kind of be that way. Obviously, Aussie yen is looking like it's going to go higher, but that if you look at the 1 hour time frame, you will see that indecisiveness come in, right? You have push up, pull back, push up, pull back, and then you have price action. This week has kind of calmed down. This is this week's price action, which is kind of turned very boxy. Last week we had some nice clean moves because we knew the dollar index where it was going to go. So, giving a new setup for Aussie yen. We look, this was the original target that we had, right? 79.640, just because of these highs up here. So to get entry in that, we're gonna have to be very careful because in the daily time frame, momentum has kind of died down. We have these two long wicks here. That means on the smaller time frame, momentum has died down. So to kind of gauge if momentum comes back, we need to close above this high we made yesterday, and that's at 78.46, right? 78.460, and I would love for that to be on the 4 hour time frame. So you can see that on the 4 hour time frame, the consolidation is even more apparent right here, right? Just no real separation. The trend has obviously simmered down. So the next thing we can wait for is a candle to break outside of this consolidation in the original trend, and then therefore we should have a push up to our target, right? So hopefully this makes sense. This is just this, the same concept we discussed in our consolidation lesson, where whenever you have a trend and then you have consolidation, usually when price breaks out of the consolidation, it goes in the original trend. And so this is the trade idea we'll have. Right, 3.3 R2R, and we're just waiting for that break, that blast off. Now on the flip side, if price does break below here, we could probably take an intraday trade to this low, right? This scenario right here is going to happen if tomorrow's ADP numbers are positive for the dollar, right? So when we have a stronger dollar, Aussie dollar will drop, Aussie yen will drop. If we have a weaker dollar tomorrow, we will see this thing just pop off, and this thing will rise. So those are two scenarios, but since the trend is up, I'm going to stick to this long one. This is another setup I'll send in. I'll put an alert at 78,500 crossing up. Okay. Another very good trade setup. So we did euro. I'll quickly just go over euro, and then I'll beat that. So yeah, right now euro is doing whatever it needs to do. We're gonna stick with the original uptrend. So we're gonna wait for yesterday's high to get broken, and that high is at 1.20,100. My alert is at 1.2150. So I'm gonna let this 4 hour candle fight, consolidate, do whatever it needs to do, because the dollar index is currently doing the same, trying to retrace. So I'm gonna let that kind of phase play out, and then during Japan session, I'll give this another look to see if we can go long, or if shorts are really an option, and big shorts, because we could take a short, because again, tomorrow's forecast is bullish, right? We have a bullish unemployment data for the dollar. So technically we could target this range from this high down to this low, and we could take a setup like this, and this is fine too, right? 3.4 to 1. So I'm not against taking this setup, but this is still a nice higher low, right? It hasn't cleared any of the past higher lows, and so the uptrend is still intact. But if we do, then you can start looking at shorts. But for now, I think the long is the best bet. So I'll send in this setup. I'll send in this one, and I think those are two that are the high probable ones. Maybe NZD, but definitely these two for sure, just to make sure We don't force any trades. And then anything else happens throughout the rest of the day, I'll let you guys know. Send an update. So I think that's it. So awesome, great session. Let's make sure the first trade we enter is a winner. Right, get on a good start and then secure that momentum forward. So we'll talk tomorrow about the ADP job numbers and hopefully about some profits that we've made. Have a great one, guys. Peace.